welcome into the first high school preview show of the 2025 season upcoming. Coach Padgett from Powdersville, you're back 3 years in a row. What's going on, Coach?
I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for having me. I did not know I was the first.
And we're live.
It's no pressure.
Don't mess up here. we have no filter or editing on the live show.
I don't think we've been live before, so that makes it a little tougher.
It's the first time for everything. Maybe Coach Smith will join us as he's driving back from hunting, wherever he's at. We've lost signal multiple times. But we'll hop into it. Obviously, the big one here will kind of start out last season. State champs, but talk about what last season meant, as well as some guys you kind of lost from last season going into this year.
I mean, you can't, I don't think, put into words what a state championship means for, the school and our kids and as much time and effort as they put in, it's in a sport that's kind of become year round now, whether it's with stuff that we got going on that's affiliated with a high school or all the stuff they do outside of it, whether it's events with you guys or travel ball or whatever. So to see kind of all their hard work and efforts and their buy-in, that was kind of the group we just lost was the first group that I really had kind of all the way through their whole high school and the couple years we get them with middle school careers. So that meant the world. And I told everybody it kind of didn't really hit you until the way it happens. We ended up having our ring ceremony at one of the football games, and it got delayed a couple of times. So it was kind of seeing a lot of those guys coming back, kind of having already gone to the next step, whether it is playing or, just going to college or working or whatever, and being able to talk to them and see what it meant for them. Being a little bit more removed from it was just really awesome. I know you've been one of the first ones to get latched on and follow us around the past few years, but we lost a lot of really good players, a lot of successful players from that group. Big senior class for us. We had 8 guys that played a lot of college guys from that group, a couple guys that had 130 career hits, which is a lot. And, just guys that were 3 or 4 year starters for us. So, we'll be looking to some guys got some big shoes to fill, but, I don't know that winning the whole thing is necessarily a standard, because that's really hard to do every single year, but just playing the way that we want to play and having the expectation of competing and giving it your all every time you get out there, whether that's at practice or when we're going up against another team. So we'll be looking to a lot of guys to step into that role, guys that have been in our program for a while. And we do have some key pieces coming back as well, but miss those guys. But I think as a coach, after you get a little bit removed from it, is what you miss is you go from seeing those guys every single day and checking in with those guys every single day, and you don't get that as much. They've kind of gone on to the next step.
And it's perfect time to bring Coach Smith on here. Coach Padgett gave me hell at the end of the year. However, I was the only guy to pick the Patriots at the beginning and midpoint of the year. Austin?
Yeah, but you bailed out late.
At crunch time, when it mattered.
When the going got tough, you decided to jump ship.
Yeah, me and Coach Smith go way back, and I'm really appreciative to still been able to talk to him and see him at the ballpark over the years, and he was the real one. I got to hook him up. He lives right there near Powdersville, so we'll get him by the ballpark and we'll hook him up with some gear.
Coach, he moved.
Yeah, it's turned into.
I didn't know that.
It used to be. Oh, no. It used to be a really. Oh no! Am I losing it again?
No, you're good. Keep talking.
It used to be really difficult for anybody but Drew to get into a Powdersville game because he kind of monopolized the whole location there in Seneca. But I finally just kind of had to bust the door down and just move over there pretty much in parking lot. So
now Coach Smith breaks up.
He made the executive decision was that if I can pay somebody $1 of travel to go over there, then we'll just make it. We'll let him go. So
there you go.
Powdersville is one of my favorite places to be. So it's a good spot.
Yeah.
Well, without you, Coach Padgett, Prep Baseball South Carolina would not have had the most viral video of the year in the nation. So I mean,
I don't know how much that had to do with me, but without our game, how about that? There you go.
Yeah, let's change that. Wasn't the game?
Coach, I'm gonna be honest with you. If you hadn't had one of the worst sins of the high school baseball season, we wouldn't have got the one video.
Oh, well, that probably, and our players can tell you, that probably was not my worst one of the playoffs. As the team and others could probably tell you, that was definitely not my worst one.
Well,
I
feel like I can say that too because as a head coach, I fired myself twice from coaching third base. So I understand it was not one of my stronger things, but yeah, when I first saw that video, my first question was, what was the call? My second question was, who the heck just sent that guy home? So,
I think that probably came from a good Lord, we're in the 14th inning.
Yeah.
Something's got to happen at some point.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to force that issue, but, it worked out for you.
Yeah. Yep.
Works out for a reason. Move on to top returners you got coming back. We know there's an obvious one, but other guys as well.
So with what we got coming back, one of the big things we've stressed is finding some defense, but we're lucky that, two guys that we leaned on for the majority of our innings will be back for us. Landon Fowler and Blaine Jordan through the majority of our innings. They were our two, a typical high school rotation. You got two guys, you got your two region games in a week. I know a lot of people are going at a 3-game set, but they're guys we leaned on. I think you guys saw a bunch of them, and funny thing about those guys, I don't think they could be, any more different in how they go about it. Landon's super blessed with a ton of ability. He's going to Clemson and getting a bunch looks for a reason. And then Blaine for us is just super competitive. He's one of those guys, I think, that the other team gets in about the 5th, 6th, 7th inning, and they're going, how do we not have more runs? But it just seems like it's always the case. And then a guy that really came on for us last year, you actually just talked about that play in the state championship, and he was actually the one that had the hit. But shortstop for us when Eli went down is Chance Kennedy, and he's going to Limestone. But he was a guy that, like we talked about at the beginning of the year, it's like, hey, Eli went down, like, we need you to play shortstop. Whatever you give us on the offensive side will be good. And, by about, a third of the way into the year, he's hitting leadoff for us, and he had almost 30 steals. He was just really dynamic for us. He actually had, I think you were there, Drew, but he had the big hit against us, or a big hit for us when we walked off against Daniel as well. He was just in that spot a bunch of times. Just a guy he's got a real steady heartbeat. And he's just steady overall as a player. You know what you get every single time he comes to the park at practice, and then what he's going to give you in the field. Just a guy. It's like, I think he's that stereotypical shortstop. Like, he's just super, super, super athletic. We got we'll lean on a couple more guys that threw some innings for us. Logan Goss, another guy that's committed, and I think you saw him a good bit this summer. Yep. He's a guy that can pick up some innings for us. And then Gavin Sykes was another senior, was hurt for us kind of towards the beginning of the year. We'll have a couple more seniors with Landon Childress will be a guy that has been in the program for a while that we feel like we can go to. And I know y'all probably didn't get to see him as much down the stretch, but when we had some other guys hurt, talked about a couple of guys with 130 hits. Another one of those was Braden Williams. But the thing about those guys that we didn't talk about last year, they didn't really start playing until spring break. And thereafter, both those guys were hurt for us, Braden Williams and so when those guys were out, we really kind of got a chance to get some other guys' feet wet that'll be some experience coming in this year. And one of those guys, Eli's brother, Steven, he's a dynamic outfielder for us. He was just one of those guys that his role kind of changed once we had some older guys come back. But he's a guy a year older. He's only sophomore. He had about 60 plus at bats as a freshman last year, play really good outfield for us. And he's a guy we think, that can give us another piece athletically in the lineup. And then we got a lot of juniors that have been in the program for a long time that we'll look to step up and fill some of those roles. And like I said, I think our big thing that we're going to be focused on in this open period and in the preseason is just really hammering down defense, because we feel like if we play solid there with the pitching that we got, that you can kind of be in every game. And that's just solid defense pitching kind of raises your floor, because hitting, especially at the high school level, and especially early on in the season, is tough a lot of times. And it can just be about how hot you are at that time. So we really want to nail down being solid on the defensive side. Catcher's another spot that we'll be looking for. Moon, I think he caught like 97% of our innings last year, and it seems like he's done that over 3 years. And he's at USC Sumter. I had lunch with him on Sunday before he went back. He's doing a great job there. Just super steady guy that we've been lucky that we've had some good catchers over the years, and there's a couple guys that I'm sure will be battling for that spot, and we'll feel good about where we are once we get going.
Coach Austin, I'm going to let you. I know you've been waiting to speak, so.
Yeah, and you know exactly who I'm going to talk about there, because
that's why I didn't say anything.
Me and you talked about him a few weeks ago. I obviously the one thing I appreciate from Coach Padgett is, we're going to do probably, 20 of these things at least, and every single coach is going to give us the runaround of we're young and we're going to be good in a couple of years, and I don't expect much this year, but he listed like every senior and junior he's got on his roster. So I'm glad to hear that there is going to be a team in the state that we can watch that will have some 25s and 26s on it. But that's a pot. But Blaine Jordan is my guy that, I joked a minute ago that Drew had the monopoly on Powdersville, and although he's kind of lost his handle on Powdersville, he still is the only one that's allowed to go watch Landon Fowler, I think. I don't know if it's a family thing or what it is, but, and not to shortchange him at all, because, he is as impressive and has as much of a future on the mound as anybody in probably the state does. Everybody knows who he is, and everybody has. You got a kid that's low 90s going to Clemson. Everybody knows what you're going to get when he gets on the mound. But last year, I think I saw Blaine Jordan 3 times last year, and man, I don't know that I've seen him give up a run yet. And it's like you said, teams look up, and I remember, I had a couple guys like that when I was coaching. Some guys we played against that, like you said, you look up in the 6th inning, it's like, where did the game go? Because he's just over here filling it up, throwing strikes, getting people out, and at the end of the day, especially if you're in a situation where you got a two game region, if you can run Fowler out there for one game and Jordan out there for the other, y'all are gonna be hard to beat, because like I said, he's such a, he's not gonna throw anything that's just you're gonna jump off the page and be like, oh my gosh, yeah. But man, I tell you, he was as impressive as anybody I saw last year, just in terms of if I was a pitching coach, I'd take 6 of him on my staff and dare you to come try to beat us. So I love watching that kid, and I look forward to seeing him again this year.
Yeah, he's he is a fun one to coach, especially anybody with a pitching background, because he is just that, right? I mean, he's a pitcher. It's not stuff blowing you away. But he knows what he's doing. He fields his position really well. He holds the running game. He does a good job controlling the running game. And he just believes in himself. Blaine's a guy. This will be his senior year. He came up for us as a freshman. Drew was coming around a good bit that year. That was the year we went over to Chapman for the Upper State Championship. But
longest night of my life.
We didn't. We had Blaine a little bit in relief that year, but he was one of our main guys on JV, and then he came up towards the end of the year, and he ended up with 5 wins, which I think was second or third on team, and he pitched in, I think, 5 elimination games in the playoffs. We ended up we had to go over through the losers bracket to BHP. And had to beat them twice, and we threw Eli in the first game, who had a great year that year. But Blaine kind of comes in for us in the middle innings, and that BHP team could absolutely rake. I mean, Lane was a guy kind of down on their list that year, and somebody hit a ball that we don't have TrackMan in high school, but I swear to everything, it was 107 plus off the bat, just right off his forearm, and I go out there and I'm like, oh my gosh, like we just lost another guy and we got to figure this out in the 5th inning of the second game of this doubleheader back to back in elimination. And I go out there to check on him and he's like, I'm fine. What are you doing now? I'm fine. As a 14-year-old freshman, whatever he is. And I'm like, well, if your arm's broken, you're not going to be able to pitch, buddy. He's like, it's fine. And he just starts shaking it around. He's like, I'm good. Look. And I think he threw, another 2 innings before it just filled up on him really bad where he couldn't throw. And then, as a sophomore the next year, he ended up slotting in as a region guy and pitched to a sub-2 ERA. And I think one of the coolest things about Blaine last year is he'd tell you he didn't start out the season the way he wanted to. And then it just seems like when the lights come on and it's the brightest and it's the biggest moments is he's ready to go. He wants the ball and he don't want me to take him out. He's threatening me if I go out there before he gets close to 110. So you just got to love kids like that want to compete and want to throw. And like you said, I hope, there's a school out there that would take a chance on a kid like that he already knows how to pitch. Like he has that side. And a lot of times you see velo jumps for kids later on. We had a kid like that, Coach Smith, you might remember, named Josh Bookbinder that pitched for us. Great high school pitcher in this state and pitched at Newberry, was freshman of the year there, but he was a 81, 82 guy with a really good changeup, but people couldn't beat him. And he put about 20, 25 pounds on his last year and going into college, and he was up to 88. And before he ended up having Tommy John, his COVID year, he was up to 92. So, I mean, you can see stuff like that happen all the time. And, if you already know how to pitch, then good things are going to happen for you. But yeah, we are very lucky, to have those 2 guys. That's a good starting point for anyone. And, we're definitely looking to fill some innings around them because, if you go as deep as you want to go, you're never going to get through with just 2 guys. So we'll still be looking for some innings to fill and hopefully take a little pressure off those guys at the same time too.
Yeah, we've joked for a couple of weeks. Mainly, I've joked for a couple of weeks that we were gonna have surprise segments on here where we made you choose if it was the 6th or 7th inning, bases loaded or 2 out. Who are you going to put in that game? I don't know if that really applies to you as much as it does some of these other coaches because having been on both sides of that, having the guy that I'm like hands down, oh yeah, this is exactly who I'm gonna hand that ball to, and also thinking having years where I could walk up and down that dugout and we might as well draw straws on who I'm gonna give that ball to. You definitely have a head start on what most people have when it comes to that situation, and both of your guys are you might not end up in that situation where you got to make that decision, but I do think you have, especially with having some new guys that are going to have to fill some roles in other spots, knowing who's more than likely, I mean, for the most part, gonna start those 2 region games for you every week is a really big load that's taken off for you, and we'll probably I'm with you. I hope somebody's willing to take a flyer on Mr. Jordan. It wouldn't even be a flyer for me. I would take him tomorrow just because, like you said, the kid can pitch, and at the end of the day, he gets outs, and I mean the name of the game is who can get the most outs without giving up runs. So I look forward to seeing where he ends up, and I think that him and Landon obviously, and several of those other arms you mentioned, I think your pitching staff is going to be one to keep track of this year going forward.
Coach Smith, realist. See, there you go. You said he was a realist. Coach Padgett, speaking of some roles you got to replace with some guys you lost, what underclassmen have a chance to stand out this year for you guys?
Well, I think I mentioned, Stephen Hudgens there just because, again, he's a guy that you guys know, and then, he's got some skill set, especially with his speed that jumps off the field for you once you see him play live. And then he's got a little bit of power too. I know you kind of get through the summer circuit a good bit and have seen that, but he's a football guy too. So he's going to be very comfortable kind of, we hope in situations like that. But, again, I think like underclassmen, you're always surprised. Like it's just, some guys just need that opportunity once it comes, and we got a pretty big junior class too, guys that have been in the program and work really hard for a long time and are kind of buy into what we're about. And guys that honestly, like as sophomores, if we didn't have, not just a big senior class last year, but one that pretty much every kid, contributed in one way or another, then there's some guys that would have a little bit more experience already, but that's just kind of how they stack up some years. So, I think that's something once we get, we used to have this December period too. We don't really get that now. So it's kind of something that once we're able to get out there and get live in January, some of those guys will separate, but, I think we've done a pretty good job, and I think the guys will buy into it is, you'll have a role that'll help us. It might not be the role that you necessarily dreamed about when you were 7 years old and everybody's playing shortstop for their little league team and summer team, because you only get one that you can run out there. But we will have a lot of those, like I said, a junior class where in some important positions for us, that some guys can kind of step in and fill those roles.
Yeah, it's going to be big for those guys with what you lost as well. But like last year's team, you had guys step up into some big roles. So everybody's got their role, coach, and these guys stepping in new role, new region, still in 3A, but now in Region 2 with some different teams. Talk about the new region and how some things are different. I know you got some new teams that have moved up to the 3A classification now. So talk about the challenges with that region as you move forward.
New region, I always feel like 2 years. It seems like we change before you get like accustomed to anybody doing it, which I totally get it. But we were lucky last year that or when they switched ours 2 years ago, it was still, we had some teams in there that we were still pretty familiar with. So we're kind of right in that middle area where, there's a lot of schools that got affected by, the multiplier rule. So they're making a big jump, schools that we hadn't necessarily crossed paths with before. So I think that'll be fun. I mean, it's always fun to play new teams. That's why a lot of people love the 3-game set. I'd always be down for that. But one thing I do like about the 2 teams is you get to play a lot of different people in a lot of different classifications. So we've done that over the past few years. But as far as our schedule and stuff matches up pretty much the same. Like I said, we're still doing 2-game sets on the same days. So not a lot as far as prep that we need to change for there. But I would imagine that our region is going to be really competitive. Palmetto is a team that we're super familiar with. I coached with Coach Frazier this summer. He's always been good to me ever since I got into coaching. And I know he always fields a super competitive team, and they always play us tough. We got 3 private schools in our, I think it's 3 classes in our region. I told you, I mean, it's hard for me to adjust. Once February gets here, it'll be like I know exactly who we're playing when we're playing every single week. But I know those teams will be tough. We've crossed paths with a couple of them the past few years, and they all got really good coaching staffs, and some of the talent obviously speaks for itself. And I think before we came on, I was telling you a little bit about our schedule. I think I get excited about those games, and I think that rubs off on our players because you want to be playing in those competitive atmospheres in type games, especially when it means something, because they're way more fun. I think we feel right now, if you're going to be out there in early March in 40-degree weather and it's nighttime, it might as well be a good game while you're doing it. So I hope we get to see, a couple of heavyweight matchups with some of our guys and then some of the other good teams and good players in our region. Just because I want to see what I know what some of our returners that they'll be up to the task because they've done it on the biggest stage. But that's always fun. I think this kind of ties into the last question that you asked about guys stepping into those new roles, because I think that's one of the most enjoyable things as a coach is when you can see those guys rise to that occasion and kind of achieve that potential that they have, and that you've seen them, from the time they're 12 years old in your program coming up. So we'll be excited for that. I know it's going to be a super competitive region, and hopefully there's a lot of fun games ahead on our schedule.
Coach, I can think of one that Sammy might tell us to stay at home, and he's going to go if there's a certain matchup there. But Coach Smith, I'm going to let you ask any question you want.
Coach, we got 26 on the schedule this year, right?
I believe so. At last check, I was doing my, I was telling somebody the way the schedule goes is I was getting messages while we were still playing last year. And so, you kind of got it in your mind, and then you kind of start mapping it out on the calendar over the summer. And then everybody kind of takes a break. And about this time, you kind of go through your, hey, hope you're having a great Thanksgiving, and everything's going good for you guys. Here's what I got for us. So we kind of went through that, and I believe 26 is the max, and I believe we are full this year. I believe so.
Okay, so we're big. We're not big gambling people, but we do like to talk about it. over under 16.5 wins for the Patriots this year.
Well, I don't know that you should ask me, because you'd have to ask Drew, but I'm pretty sure my picks were probably terrible when I was the guest picker.
We got 26 games in the over-under 16
No, I'm
and a half.
talking about when I was the guest picker for whatever college football week it was. I'm sure I bet mine were terrible that week.
Well, I mean, if I go under, I'm going to get –
You don't have it in front of you? You don't have the running tally of –
No, I don't.
Oh, man.
Coach, there's no way that you had a worse record than Drew.
Austin, please hush.
Were you not good? I didn't
hadn't heard anybody give me an over and under on 16.5.
I'm gonna, if I go under, Coach Padgett's gonna get on me, but I'm going over.
I'm in the over too, but I do know there's some tough teams in that region. There's gonna be some really spicy pitching matchups there. I don't know if that's a good word to use for pitching, but I know there's some spicy matchups that if who I think is in your region, there will be at least one of those matchups. There'll probably be radar guns flying left and right back there. So I look forward to that. But yeah, I expect a big year out of the Patriots. Just for, I mean, how many years you been in charge there? 6.
2020 was my first year, and we got all of 7 games in. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So this is 5.
Yes, sir.
So this is 5. Well, I know in those 5 years y'all have played. Y'all have played probably in as many big games. Not only played in, but won as many big games as anybody in the state. So I think that's gonna go a long way for y'all. I don't think that some of those matchups. I don't think your guys are gonna walk in and be like, oh man, what are we gonna do here? So I'm going over on the 16.5. I think that might be the consensus of a question that
start
maybe
writing these down
without getting in trouble. I know that the high school league doesn't really promote gambling or betting on sports and stuff. And I know
you just call it a prediction. Nobody's gambling; it's just a prediction.
Yeah, well, there's no money involved. I think it's just we're wanting to know how confident everybody is in their squad, and we're going to revisit these at the end of the year. And see who we were. It's going to be awkward when I throw that 16.5 out for somebody and I tell them I definitely am taking the under on y'all this year. But I'm not sure how that's going to play out, but
I'd be more interested to hear like how many actual answers, because I vamped as much as I could around that, and it's not even that. It's more so just we talk to our guys all the time about. We're busting our butts to try to win, but so's the other team, and that's how it plays out sometimes. But also embrace that, because that's what makes it fun. If you're playing somebody that's not trying to win, then why do we even call it competition? So, you're not guaranteed, or the game doesn't owe you anything just because you work really hard and you want to win. The other guy's doing that too. So, we know, we like that. I think as a program and knowing our players, I think we like knowing that we'll compete and like to compete and like to play good teams and like to see where we stand. But you just never know how some of that stuff can go. Just ball doesn't bounce your way, or it does bounce your way, or some of the best baseball games I feel like are 2-1, 3-2, and you could have played your best ball, and it doesn't necessarily mean you come out with a win.
Coach Padgett. Coach, I don't even know what to say.
He Austin, Coach Smith had his one question.
I don't have a question.
You set up all the other questions. Fair enough.
Yeah, I used all the other questions. Coach, we really do appreciate you hopping on. We look forward to watching you in the spring. I know we had a blast watching you guys win a state championship last year, and expect big things from you guys this coming year as well.
I appreciate, you having me on, even though I was the first and you didn't tell me till right when we hit record. But that's
I think you've been the first like 2 out of 3 years.
But so like I said, super appreciative of you guys doing this, doing the podcast and doing it as often as you guys do. Is I'm sure you guys have a blast doing it, but I don't take for granted how much that means to kids in our state and giving them something to talk about. I'm like, we're coaches and all that, but we're still fans of, I think, high school baseball, and we don't have a Tiger Net or a Stephen A. Smith to turn on and watch talk about it. So you guys give us a platform to do that, and I know it's something that makes it really special for these guys, and so we're super appreciative. I wanted to say that live, and like I said, don't take that for granted. How much you guys do for not just the sport in the state, but the kids too. So we're really appreciative, and I know I speak for a lot of other people out there as well.
Coach Smith, you got any sign-off remarks here? Coach Smith? Coach Smith is dropped out. Coach, we really do appreciate it. Look forward to it, like I said. That's going to wrap us up. Oh, Austin came back on here. We don't what? Austin?
I'm on here double.
I know. I just removed the other one. Do you have any sign-off remarks before I wrap this up?
Do we have the hats yet for this year?
I think I can hook you up, although you said you don't live near us anymore, so it would be a special trip.
I'm not asking for one. We're ranking hats. I wanted to see if we had one that we can see.
I don't know if I have mine.
That's okay. I put you on the spot. I'm sorry.
On me. In my little room in there, I actually we have a home and a road hat. Our home one's white, and I get all the players to sign it at the end every year. So I have that one somewhere in my little. My wife calls it my man cave, but I don't know how much longer I'll get to keep it. So I got a hat in there somewhere, but it's got writing all over it. And then my other one's probably in my truck, to be honest. So we keep it. We try to keep it pretty standard.
Powdersville.
Yep. Our all blue, and then we go a white and blue.
Okay. Who you got winning the national championship football this year?
Oh Lord, that's way on the spot. Well, I mean, we don't know who's in the field yet. I mean, I guess you technically know.
You got to gamble. What you got?
Let's go chalk. Oregon.
Okay.
Go chalk.
He's going with the Ducks. All right.
So
I'm done asking random questions. I'm good.
Great job, Austin. So since we've already signed off, we'll really sign off this time. So from all of us here at Prep Baseball South Carolina, we hope you have a great week.